Welcome to Good Life. I'm Dean Wilson. I think you're going to really love today's program. Mike Klan is with me. He's a 25-year sports broadcaster. Great stories from the community. Talks about some local athletes, coaches, lessons that sports can teach us. It's a great interview. Mike Klan, The Good Life, is next. Welcome to Good Life. I'm Dean Wilson. So glad you joined us today. GoodLifeTelevision.org is where you can go for all the interviews. We've had so many great people over the last year, so many inspiring stories, young people, entrepreneurs, public servants, law enforcement. We've kind of had the gamut. It's been a lot of fun. And those interviews are all there. There's also power clips where you can kind of see some of the great parts of those interviews. We've kind of divided them up into clips. So we hope you'll join us at GoodLifeTelevision.org. Thank you for joining us today. I'm really excited about my guest. Mike Klan is with me. Mike, well,
hey, yeah, thanks for having me. What a treat. I'm usually the one asking the questions.
Yeah, I figured that.
I don't get interviewed too often. So.
Yeah, well, just, if you're grading me as we go, just be gentle. I'm still in my rookie
You're
season.
off to a good start.
Yeah, thank you. Mike has been a long time he's the sports guy in our community with KUIT, also the sports director at KCOY and Fox 11. Mike's been in kind of on the TV set in this town for a long time, 25 years?
25 years full time, and even a couple years before that part time, and some free labor too with internships. So,
really?
Yeah. I knew early that it's what I wanted to do. So
you don't look old enough to have 25 years in.
Right out of college.
That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Was this your dream?
It was. I mean, obviously, I think if I had one dream, it would be to actually play professional sports.
Join the club.
I think a lot of people, right? But I wasn't very good, so I always knew I wanted to be around sports. And I went to UCSB and went right to KCSB, the radio station there, and did Sports Spot, did sports updates there. I actually was announcer for some of the teams,
really?
Volleyball, basketball a little bit, some baseball. They let you do pretty much anything.
Yeah.
But what was incredible is I think it was 1988 as a sophomore, I got to go to Fort Wayne, Indiana to call the NCAA volleyball championships.
Oh, did you
UCSB
really?
was taking on USC, and I thought it was like the best thing in the world. I'm a sophomore in college, and I'm traveling to to cover the NCAA championships in volleyball.
Wow.
So KCSB actually is pretty legit. I mean, they'll send, not all the time, but they'll send their broadcasters to Hawaii to cover a Big West match. And
really?
Yeah, so it's pretty great. I was pretty fortunate to work there.
Wow.
Yeah.
And before I go ask you more, you've covered some of the biggest events in the country: the Super Bowls, World Series, National Championship. You've won Southern California Golden Mike Awards, Associated Press Honors, Emmy Awards. So you've had a lot of success doing this. How has your business changed in 25 years?
Oh, tremendously. I mean, honestly, I think it'll change it for the internet has changed, where people don't have to just be at their house in front of a TV at 6 o'clock. I mean, we always are on social media posting our stories. I think more people watch my stories now on Facebook and Twitter than they do 6 o'clock, 11 o'clock. I'm not certain of that, but I have a good feeling that if I don't post those stories, I may not get a whole lot of feedback. But when I post those stories, it's like I'll see somebody that's like, oh yeah, I saw your story, on Facebook.
I watch them. That's how I watch them.
Yeah, exactly, because you don't have to be tied down to the 6 o'clock or 11 o'clock news. And still, a lot of people still, prefer to watch the news that way. But with young people, I can't see them watching the news at 6 and 11 o'clock.
Yeah,
They're just not conditioned like that way.
Right. I mean, it's kind of like instead of people going to their TV set at a certain time to watch, you're pushing to them.
Right.
And then that's at their convenience.
Exactly.
On their phone.
Yeah.
Which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And it's great, too, because you get more feedback that way, too.
Yeah.
Because if you're just talking into, the cameras and then that's it, and you don't know who likes your story, who doesn't like it, what comments they make, and then on Facebook or something, they can make comments or like or so. Yeah, it's kind of nice that way.
Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Ohio, but raised mostly outside of Philadelphia. So all my favorite sports teams are all Philadelphia teams.
Really?
Yes.
Still.
So when you're growing up,
right,
that's where you form your allegiance. So I love the Phillies, the Eagles, the Sixers. But that being said, I cover all the LA teams. So I actually have grown to really like those teams. Yes. There's not really a big rivalry. There used to be in the 80s with the Sixers and Lakers.
Right.
There was a big rivalry, but they're not like Phillies, Dodgers, not much rivalry there, the Eagles, Rams and stuff. So I enjoy the LA teams. I like the LA teams more than the Bay Area teams because I cover and I know more about the LA teams. Yeah. But my love is Philadelphia. Before you even asked, my best sports moment ever was I was at the Super Bowl to watch the Eagles win their only Super Bowl a few years ago, upset the Patriots. And that is an amazing sports experience for me at US Bank Stadium to watch the Eagles upset Tom Brady and the Patriots. So I went there, and to enjoy the game, kind of expecting them to lose, and to have Nick Foles, the backup quarterback, get the MVP, and what a great guy he is.
Right.
And to pull that off, that was amazing. So.
Amazing. What do you? Well, I was thinking about sports this morning, thinking about having you on, and I was thinking about the value of sports in a community. I mean, you've had this unbelievable show, this Friday night focus on football, and for 25 years. I mean,
and I didn't even start it. We've enhanced it, but that was like late 80s. They started 10-minute show, and it grew and grew.
I was just thinking about that. I mean, high school football as an example is something that really kind of brings a community together.
It sure does.
Talk about kind of sports, young people, the kind of the value of sports in a community.
I just think it's just so positive. People can rally behind it. I mean, even in the school year, on a normal school year, it really sets the tone for the school year. I mean, if you have a good football team, you see that spirit out there. I see it every Friday night. The band getting out there, the cheerleaders, the student body, homecoming. It really does. And even if you're not winning, it just brings people together. I really think that maybe it's because it's the first sport of the year, but it's just like, some sports lend themselves to more eyeballs. You don't see big crowds of cross country, even though it's a great sport. It's just football. It's just a gathering place. And of course, sports just so positive. How many lessons it teaches you. How you get through adversity, how you work as a team. Football as an example. I don't care if you have the star player. It's not going to, unless you have, 10 or 15, 20 more good players, you're not going to win. So I think it's just great messages.
Great lessons.
Yeah, and, and the thing I like about covering high school sports is it gives kids so much confidence when I go out there, or the news press goes out there, or Newshawk and does a story. I mean, the confidence it gives kids that they are actually shown in a positive light. It's amazing. And I don't even see it all the time. Sometimes I'll do a story, and then the mom would call my wife and say, "Oh, he was beaming for a week because he showed a couple goals from water polo." And that just makes me feel so good. Because, there's so much negativity. These kids get on social media. We talked about some of the benefits of social media, but there's so many people I think it's more negative, than positive. And they get such negative feedback some way. And then to hear that they're getting that positive vibe from just a quick little highlight. It's just...
It's a big deal to be on TV.
No, it is.
So I'll tell the story. So you put, at the beginning of the quarantine, my boys started doing trick shots in the front of the house.
I remember,
Like hours. Days.
They were pretty impressive, I have to say.
And you put them on.
And
you should have seen their face when they saw themselves on TV.
To being on TV is a big deal. And I got to say, this community is so fortunate, not just KYT, but the news press and the news, their coverage of local high school sports and even youth sports. You go in LA, you're not getting that. The LA stations are only going pro and some college.
Yeah.
You know, even UCSB and Westmont gets way more coverage than they would a Cal State
Right.
Fullerton or an
Right.
Irvine, because
Right.
there's just no outlet there for that.
Right.
And so this, and the roundtable knows that, and the coaches know that, and they're really appreciative
Yeah.
of that fact.
that's
I mean,
true.
it really builds high self-esteem among our young athletes.
You know, in sports, I mean, and you mentioned kind of the lessons sports can teach. I had a conversation with my 14-year-old son the other day. So we were talking about different things, and it came up. So 2017, we're Dodger fans. My boys were devastated by the loss to the Astros.
Yep.
And then it came out that, you know, they're cheating,
Right.
banging on the trash can.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so we were talking about something else totally outside of sports, and he came back to that in the conversation. He said, but you know, Dad, like we learned, everything eventually comes out.
So true.
And I thought, you know, that was a painful thing.
Right.
But I mean, what a great lesson.
Right.
You know, you lose. Sometimes you lose fair and square, and other times you lose, and it's not right. But everything does eventually come out.
I know.
I thought, what a great lesson.
I'm always surprised at people who do try to hide stuff,
Yeah.
and organizations and teams. It
Right.
always
It always
comes out.
Right.
It does.
Yeah.
It just, you just can't keep it silent, and
Yeah.
it's just, if you're up front, then you have nothing to hide.
Right.
And
that's
no
a
shame.
Great
either.
lesson for life.
It is.
I mean,
it
you
really
know,
is.
yeah.
And I got to tell you, as a journalist, I appreciate that too. Because even though sports, I cover mostly positive stories. When there is a negative story, I appreciate so much when the coach will talk about it, or where the athletic director will meet it head on instead of just like refusing, no comment, all this, because it always comes out.
Right.
And you know, it's usually worse than if you meet it head on.
Yeah.
You know, and I
That's
think we
a good
can all take that. Because, you know, in life, some things are not going to go your way. You're going to make a mistake here and there.
Yeah.
Just own up to it.
Own it. Get it out.
Get it out.
Here
and
it is.
move on.
Yeah, that's good. We're solving a lot of problems here. I feel like. Little less chickens. Somebody who wanted to go into sportscasting. I had a dream of going into sportscasting when I was at Westmont College. We talked about this off air, but I did have that dream for a minute.
Right.
What's the path? You seem like you made this look pretty easy. You came right out of UCSB, but a normal kind of situation. If somebody wanted to go into broadcasting these days, what is the path?
You know, there isn't. It's hard to define a path, but for me, and I always suggest young people take an internship, because school, will teach you about it, maybe how to do some of the camera work, or even get in front of it. But until you get into a newsroom or a newspaper, or even at your school, you got to see if you like it, right? I mean, any job. I mean, I had friends went through law school, right? Became a lawyer, and they hated it. Right? And then it's just like, then they've got to pivot, which is fine. Most people do change careers.
Yeah.
But the one thing you don't want to do, for me at least, is just try to do something that you're not even going to like. Because you're going to spend, no matter what profession, you're going to spend so many hours at it.
Yeah.
And, there's no, let me tell you a secret. In broadcasting and probably a lot of jobs, you're not working just 40 hours, right? I mean, you're working, 50, 60, 70 hours some weeks, right? Not all the weeks, but some weeks. And if you don't like it, that's a big chunk of your week. And, who wants to be miserable at their job?
Right.
So take an internship, and first to see if you like it.
Yeah.
And one thing I will encourage people to do too is be well-rounded, because being well-rounded makes you more interesting, better writer. I mean, if you can write, you can succeed in journalism. But you write through the experiences you have in life.
Right.
So travel and read and do stuff maybe even out of your comfort area, because the experiences will help you in any job.
That all informs you.
It does. It really does.
I got to spend a couple hours with Vin Scully one time, and what you just
you're
said, I am. And what you just said is what he said. When I was asking him for advice on sportscast, I'm 17 years old.
Right.
He said, read.
Yep, exactly. And I had the same news director told me that years ago, and he could care less about sports, right? He didn't follow it. He couldn't tell you, the Rams from the Dodgers, but he knew I liked it. And he just said, the more well-rounded you are, the
Yeah.
better you will be.
Right.
And
Isn't
it's
that
true.
interesting?
It
Yeah.
is. In
That's
journalism and in life, I think, too.
Right. That's good. So good. We need to focus a little bit, at least, on your wife, Delina.
Oh,
College friend of mine. Delina is like the kind of person that when she sees you and you see her, you feel like she's always so excited to see you.
she is. She makes you feel better about yourself.
Isn't that
Yeah,
it's
that's why
really
I fell
true.
in love with her.
How did you meet her?
I met her at the station. She used
You did?
She was a producer. Yeah, she was a writer
Really?
and a producer when she was at Westmont. And so
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I originally met her. She was a writer and a producer, and then we became friends. I mean, she was, she's 9 years younger than me. And so she went off to Club Med and worked and did all the, talk about well-rounded. She's good at everything she does, and she's done a lot of different stuff. And so, but when she came back to town from working at Club Med in Florida, then we started dating. But I got to know her originally at the TV station.
When she was in college.
Yeah, when she was in college. And the thing great about Delina is what people say is she's everyone's biggest cheerleader.
Right.
She just, whatever you like and enjoy, she is there.
She's all
to
about
support.
it.
Yeah, I've kind of encouraged her to become a life coach. So I think I should be, and she's had some interest in that too. But right now she's a wedding planner. She's an event planner. She was a great salesperson at Yardy Systems out in
remember
Goleta.
that. Yeah.
So she's done a lot of stuff. She was an award-winning producer. So she's good at everything. And she's probably the reason why I'm still in Santa Barbara, because, I had, kind of my eye on some different places I was going to work. But she was born and raised here, and it just made sense that we would stay here. And so, and which I have no complaints either, because I love my job here too. But, you kind of always have, like in TV, you're kind of encouraged sometimes to even go to a bigger market, cover bigger stuff or anything. But I can't complain. And you asked me one thing about how TV's changed. One thing that's been great is the technology that changed. To segue, that's why I'm also here, because with the invention or the cell phone technology has made it where we can go live anywhere in the world. So we get to cover bigger events, Super Bowls and World Series, and that's appealing. So there's really no reason for me to go to these bigger places, because that, working in Santa Barbara, I can still cover these big events and also still have the best part of, covering the local high school and college and stuff too. So anyway, Delina's great. But
I may need to tag along with you at a Super Bowl someday.
Oh yeah,
I can carry the bag.
You can carry,
cameraman,
I with all this kind of a setup, I think you're great. You might be asking the questions. I might be carrying your bag.
That'd be fun. Who's your favorite broadcaster of all time?
My favorite broadcaster of all, that's a great question. I love Chick Hearn and Vin Scully, just because even though I grew up in Philadelphia, I was kind of young. They had a great one in Harry Callis. He died many years ago, but he was great for the Phillies. He actually was the voice of the NFL films for many years too. He's got a really distinctive voice, so I really like him. But I really like the Vin Scully was just the way he tells the game, and then getting to know kind of just what he's about. Just a great person. Right. That's the thing when people ask me about my favorite athletes and that, it's like, okay, I want to like you on the court or on the field, but what are you doing outside of the playing field too? Right. Because that makes it so much better for me.
Right. When you find out your hero is actually a great guy,
I know.
It makes a big difference.
I know. It really does. And that's what's the great thing about covering, like UCSB and Westmont sport. The athletes they attract are just superb.
Incredible.
And they really are. Like Shane Bieber is going to win the American League Cy Young Award.
Right.
He is the greatest guy. The last 2 years, I've met him at Cottage Hospital, visiting all the kids in the hospital at the holidays. He does, he goes there on his own. The Indians didn't send him. UCSB didn't send him. He just one day called up and said, I'm a part of this community. In the off season, he lives here, works out in Summerlin, and he wanted to give back in the community. So he's the top pitcher in baseball right now. And he's like an MVP off the field. It's just like great stories like that.
Right.
It's just
that's going to be my next question is in your 25 years here, is there a coach or two that stands out, whether it be high school, college, in this community to you?
Well, I mean, I love John Moore.
Yeah.
I was sad to see him retire.
Right.
I mean, the round table, he goes to the round table and just is.
He's a hero at the round table.
Oh, my God. He's just great. But he's great. I'd see him, around town at the restaurants, and he's always asking about my kids and all that. And the quotes he would give at the round table, he's just really just inspirational.
Yeah.
I mean, just amazing. You know who I really liked too was Mark French at UCSB, women's coach. He was just what he did for the community. I mean, he'd have his players in and out of the community, and just so again, I love that the coaches that win, but I just love the coaches that also give back to the community. Right. It's great to see, and most of the high school coaches are like that. Whatever sport it is, they're just great. Chucky Roth at San Marcos, water polo. I mean, every girl or young woman, he's also the Santa Barbara City College coach, women's polo. Not only does he win, but every female that I've talked to thinks of him as a father figure. I mean, it's just amazing the impact he has.
Wow.
I mean, why is water polo so good in this town? It's because of Chucky Roth and Mark Walsh and coaches like that, because they invest in the kids.
Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing. And we in Orange County play the best water polo. But it's not just X's and O's with those guys.
Right.
They really care.
And it takes one person like that to make something like that happen.
I know.
That's an amazing thing about the coaching profession.
I know. And it's just amazing what they do. Chucky Roth, one more story about him too. And I barely see him. So that's the kind of impact he's made just watching him covering his team. He took non-athletes at San Marcos, and there's across the street at San Marcos, there's a gym. I think it's Killer Bees or something like that. I forget. He took non-athletes there who were struggling and with school, with physical fitness. He did a class with them. I did a story on it for a semester. All their grades went up. Their self-esteem went up. And
really?
It was just him investing in the youth. And it's just
so good.
And I don't want to get naming coaches, but there's so many coaches like that in this town.
That's so great. We need to have him on the program.
Chucky Roth.
Chucky Roth.
Yes.
What about if you look back over 25 years? Is there one or two or whatever athletes that stand out?
Wow, I mean,
that's probably a tougher one.
It's hard. I mean, I I've gotten to know some really just incredible athletes that just There's Kyle Shotwell that played at Dos Pueblos, almost made it in the NFL. Actually, was on some 53-man rosters. Maybe some practice squads. But the Shotwells, they've had 4 kids play sports here. Most of them at Cal Poly. Just great people in the community. Just Carrick DeHart played at UCSB. I lived across from him.
Really?
He was just a great guy. He's done some incredible coaching, and he works at Channel Islands University now. I mean, there's just so many athletes that are just incredible. 2020 has been so hard, but when Kobe Bryant died, that was almost felt like a family member died, and he'd come here for camps.
I heard that,
and just it was great to interview him, and and just see how he with the kids, and he was so involved in those camps, right? I mean, it's just like he took a personal investment in that. And I just loved seeing that, and what he was going to do for the women's basketball game.
Oh man,
that hurts,
it's so
and I'm not even, the Lakers aren't even my favorite team. So
well, he's a Philly guy.
Yeah, exactly. He is a Philly guy. But it's just I love seeing athletes that are doing that off the court too. Andre Agassi, I'm not even a huge tennis fan, right? I mean, I watched the Big Slam, but that he started a school in Vegas and an academy.
Right.
LeBron James doing that in Akron, Ohio. Just that's the kind of stuff that I like.
That's the meaningful
I was
stuff.
so excited when Andre Agassi opened his 24-hour fitness club in Santa Barbara. He has ownership in that. This was many years ago. He came to town. I got to interview him just because, I got to talk to him about his academy that he opened up for the youth. So
that's so good.
That's who I'm attracted to.
Yeah, as I was reading about you this morning, it's just refreshing to see a guy like you who's kind of been a steady presence in a community who's on the TV, said it's a little bit like John Palminteri. I was thinking the same thing.
Well, way less, but yeah.
Oh, you don't have the mustache.
JP's prime time, right?
Right. We need a name for you. What's your name? We'll come up with a name.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is great. I think every community to kind of have you're kind of like the sports guy. John Palminteri is kind of like if there's a crisis or an emergency, you're going to turn your TV on and you're looking for John Palminteri. But you're the sports guy, which is a really great thing. And to have 25 years of steady, consistency is great.
Very fortunate.
Yeah.
Very fortunate. And I, honestly, I still love what I do, and that's what's great about it. Even long days, I just look forward to going to work and seeing what's out there to cover. I love covering the games, and I love covering human interest stories. And someone told me a long time ago, it's a privilege to put on this microphone and talk about what you're going to talk about every night, and I've always remembered that.
That's really good.
And there's a coach down south too, of what motivates me. And it's John Mack. And I was out of his practice one day, and he told his kids, "If you're not getting better, you're getting worse." And I've always tried to remember that. Like, don't try to mail stuff in. Just try to really push yourself to get better, even after 25 years.
Right.
Doesn't always work out that way, but that's what I strive to do.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you for what you've done.
I appreciate you having me. This is great.
Thanks for saying hi to Delina.
I will.
A great family, and we appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much.
All right. And we'll see you next time.